In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 10 steps to go from a completely blank DAW project to this. We're going to cover everything from picking the right sounds, programming the drums, an amazing chord progression, synth design, mixing, arrangement, and so much more. And as usual, you can download this project file, all the samples completely free, using the link below. These are the exact techniques that have helped our accelerator students get signed to some of the world's biggest labels, tour the world, and hit well over 100 million streams. And if you want to find out more about that, you can click the link below. So without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. No cuts, no edits, let's see what happens. So first thing I'm going to do is set my tempo to 128 BPM. Then I'm going to get a nice big fat kick drum in there. I'm just going to go to my favorites and I'm going to choose this one, which I think I nabbed from a Calvin Harris track. Shh, don't tell anyone. It's okay, it's okay. It's dance music, sampling's okay. Now I'm going to program that in on every beat. So just boom, boom, boom. I want you in my room. Lovely jubbly. Next thing I want to do is make a chord progression because that's going to be the basis for everything that happens in this track. I'm going to choose the scale of A minor because it's the simplest key to work in. I'm not going to save this yet. No, let's wait. Is it worth saving? Well, we have to find out, don't we? Let's go chords. And I'm just going to work out these progression with a grand piano because it's the simplest sound. I don't want to distract with sound design. I want to just work out the chords first. And the easiest way to do it is to use scale mode. So in Ableton, you can hit scale, just choose the scale. It doesn't have to be A minor. It's just, I'm choosing A minor because I want to. All right, then I can hit scale. And the first thing we want to do is work out the root note of each of these chords. Now, most dance music's only got 3 or 4 chords in the progression, and it just repeats for the whole track. A lot of people will overcomplicate things. You don't need to overcomplicate it. They think adding more chords makes it better. That's not necessarily the case. So we won't put it to minus 912, that would be ridiculous. So easy, that's the progression we're going to have. Except I want it to go down. Now, once we've got the root notes programmed in, we just need to skip a note each time whilst we're in scale mode. So, like so. See, like little grey hamburgers. I wouldn't eat them though. Goodness no. So now we've got our standard triads, as they are wont to be called. And we can leave it there for the time being. We're going to get back to that and make it sound not completely rubbish, but not quite yet. Because next thing on the magic list is 808 bass, and I wanted to do this because I haven't shown it on this channel before, but this is going to allow us to create something really punchy that really cuts through the mix. So I am going to save it now because I do think this is worth saving. What are we going to call this? Let's see. Eli and Fur. We've already done Furry Friends, haven't we? So we're going to call this Fur Me Up Buttercup. I don't know why, but we've done it and it can't be undone. So what I'm going to do for this is actually just search for an 808 within Ableton. And then we'll see what they got. Oof, there's loads of options. I'm going to go for Selector Rack because I like the name. Selector. And now we've got that. Ooh, G6. So I'm just going to program in a rhythm on the root note. So the way I'm going to do that is just make sure I've got 16th selected, and I'm going to do it all on the root note. Cut down a couple of octaves. And I'm going to turn off those horrible chords for the time being and just work out a rhythm that dances against the kick. Like that, using those snare skip points. So that's just before the beat and just after the beat, which would be this one. And let's extend those out a little bit. I don't want that one to be that long. Cool. So now we can just duplicate that and we've got this cool syncopated rhythm. Let's just make it be a little less. Now, if we throw a nice sidechain compressor on there, it's going to dance against the kick, and that gives us a really nice solid bass for this track. So I'm going to get a normal compressor, throw that on the bass, and then I'm going to open up this sidechain channel here and take the input from our sidechain trigger track. Now this sidechain trigger track is just a short, sharp rim shot that you don't hear because I've got it set to sends only, because we're only going to use it to trigger the sidechain compressors. And the reason I'm doing that instead of using the kick drum is because I've got all the control with the attack and the release. Kick drums are longer than this short rim shot, so then it forces that sidechain ducking effect to be longer, and that's why I'm doing it, because someone asked last week. Nice. Okay, next thing we want to do is get the main drums in there. So I'm just going to grab a clap and let's go here. I got this earlier, so I'm going to grab a clap there. Oof, but it's also got the kick in there. So if you do sample a clap from a track, which I've done, you're going to have to take out the low end because there's usually going to be a kick playing as well. Yeah, maybe not that much. And a little bit of body in there. That sounds good to me. So let's program that in on every other kick. Boom. Some nice body. Nice body, clappy. But I want the end to be kind of smoothed off slightly. Okay, cool. Let's get the hat in there as well, the main hat. So let's program that in on every other kick, which is the standard position for your main open hat. There we go. And I'm going to make sure that it's not too loud. It's worth spending time getting the sounds right at the beginning, always. Sounding pretty good. I like the atmosphere of the top of the kick. Cool. Next thing we want to do is get that shuffle in there because we need to get the groove going. I'm going to use a shuffle loop for this. Whatever is going to be the quickest thing for you. You could program in the 16th hats, but I'm just going to use a loop from Splice. So let's open up Splice. You could use Loop Cloud, but Splice has loads of kind of really good quality sounds, so I tend to use this more often than not now. Let's go for Shaker Loop. That sounds pretty good. I don't want that tempo though, so I'm going to tone up the range. So we're looking for more house-related tempos. Let's do that. Boom. Okay, what you got for me? That's cool, because there's lots of stuff going on in there. So I'm going to drag that in, and we don't want it too loud. So let's just bring it down a bit. Like, when you find the right top loop, it just brings everything together. Let's add a little bit of room reverb to that hat, to the clap. Now, with room reverb, what I've done is I've set up in the drum rack, if you hit this routing button and right-click Create Return Chain, I've just selected the room reverb channel that I've got on an auxiliary channel, and that allows us to feed out a little bit of each drum to that room reverb, which will glue everything together. But you want to make sure that you don't have anything under 120 hertz on the reverb. Maybe a bit higher actually in this case. And a little bit to the shuffle. That's sounding amazing already. Okay, next thing we need to do is get a magic synth. And for this, I'm actually going to use the same 808. And I got this idea from Punctual, from a track I absolutely love. And then I'm going to color it cyan, the natural color of synths. And all we're going to do with this is create some interesting rhythm, but a couple of octaves above. And then I'm going to show you something very cool that we can do with it to just add more interest and movement. And you'll note how few moves this takes, really. And again, much like we did with the kick drum and the bass line, just make sure they kind of dance around each other. So you can program it all on one beat first, on the root note. And that can make it much simpler. So let's just get a rhythm that works against the kick and the bass. That sounds pretty good. So let's just loop that. Now that sounds a bit rubbish at the moment, but what we're going to do is take the low pass filter off that, and then we're going to change some of the notes to create a little riff, a repeating motif. So we're just going to repeat that. So now we've got a real groove going. But now I want to show you how to make this really special sounding. Adding a little bit of punch. So what I want to show you now is using a delay in a creative way that will instantly make your track sound more interesting. And then I'm going to show you something crazy. But first, let's get this sounding good. Now I'm getting excited already, see? Anyone who's stuck around with me this long knows that I get excited the longer we go on through the video. Speak English, boy. Right, okay. I want this a really tight, close reverb. Like this. Like it's in a pipe. And now what I'm going to do, which is what I wanted to show you, is just automate that dry-wet control so it comes on. Not on every beat, basically. So we could have it come on this one to about 50%. So now you've got that kind of blast of delay. I'm going to call it pipe delay. Let's just fade it out a little bit like that, and then just duplicate that, just the automation, and then we've got this cool effect, which just keeps interest going in the rhythm. Oh, that's sounding great already. Okay, next thing we've got on the magic list is the Stutter synth. I'm smashing through this way faster than I was expecting. So for the Stutter synth, what we want to do is use this chord progression and actually have it be applied to a couple of different synths, and then we're going to create an interesting rhythm with it. So you could create something from scratch, or you could use a preset. I'm going to create something from scratch, and I think I'm just going to, seeing as we've only used the Ableton plugin so far, I'm going to stick with that and see what we come up with. So I'm going to call this Stutter 1, Stutter Layer 1, and I'm just going to use Wavetable. I mean, I could search through some of the presets actually, but I want something quite airy and floaty. Yeah, that's not it. That ain't it, Chief. So let's look at some of these. Ambient and evolving, that sounds exciting. Learning how to search out presets and other samples is such a key skill. More than sound design itself. Oh no, that's too scary. What are we making, like 28 years later or something? Well, that's nice, isn't it? Let's use that, but I now want to tweak this so it's got a faster attack. So this is the sound we're going to use. And I want to create a rhythm that is on the 16ths, and basically have a riff that's going to work with this. So let's have a listen to it. Oh, then we've got to do the bass line. Actually, I'm going to save that later for something else. So we're going to shelve that, but we're going to keep it because it's really going to bring the top end out. Meldo D. Always have your Meldo Ds coloured cyan, always. Yeah, we're going to shelve that for the time being because it's going to really come into play in a few minutes. Next thing I want to do is create a bass progression. You'll think, well, we've already created the bass. And I'd say, yes, you're right. And I applaud you for your observation skills. However, we're going to have a bass progression, which is going to be for the B section of our track. So if this is our drop, we are going to get to a B section of the track, which is all going to make sense. And it's all going to be tied together when we get to that vocal. Don't forget, you can download this project too. Right, let's stick that color in there. And I want to create a 16th rolling bass for this. And it can't play at the same time as the 808 bass because that would be absolute lunacy. So we're going to create it from scratch. I'm going to call this rolling bass. Ah, I'm also going to probably regret the fact that I've decided to do it all in stock plugins. But actually, no, I don't regret it because I'm a gosh darn maverick. Let's get wavetable on there. And I want to create a really short, plucky sound so that we can have that 16th rolling bass. So we're going to choose that, make it a bit quieter. And the easiest way to make a nice rolling bass line is choose a saw wave. Make sure it's monophonic so the notes don't bleed into each other. Get a nice tight sound like that, and then put a frequency cutoff on it too. So I'm going to assign that to the same envelope. So the same as our amp envelope. So you've got that kind of effect. Let's choose a different filter type so we can add some drive. Cool. Let's add some stereo width. Don't worry, we're going to make this cleaner in a sec. So now you've got this lovely wide bass sound. And it's a bit of a click to it, so I'm going to just look at the envelope and see if we can soothe that a little bit. Ooh, brassy. No, I'm going to keep it like that. We can now take the work that we've already done on our chord progression, figure out what the notes are. So A, C, F, and D. A, C, F, D. And then we're going to go, again, we can hit scale mode to make things easier. A minor. Hit scale mode. I think it was A, C, F, D, wasn't it? Let's see. Yeah. And then down. A, C, F, D. Now I'm going to program that in. That should be changing every 4 beats like that. And now let's program in a 16th rhythm. Now I know it's too high up at the moment, but we can easily drop the octaves later. I actually find it's easier to write bass in a higher octave because the lower down the notes, the harder to hear which pitch it's hitting. So now our bass progression is doing this. So let's bring it down a couple of octaves. Now we're going to have some phase issues there in the low end. So I'm going to take out everything under 100 Hertz. And then I'm going to duplicate that and we're going to have a sub bass as well. It's going to play exactly the same notes in the same order, but instead of a saw wave, I'm going to have a nice simple sine wave and take off this low end. Oop, and take off the unison as well. Now we've got that horrible clicking, so I'm going to apply the EQ, but I'm just going to take everything off over 100 Hertz. So we've got that pulsing. And that's going to give us a really solid low end. And I can balance these independently of each other, like so. And add a little bit of room reverb to our bass progression. So now, that sounds awesome. You might not know it, but it does. So I'm going to group those two things together, and I'm going to put a sidechain compressor on both of them. Same sidechain compressor, keep things simple. Let's just pop it on there. So it bounces against the kick drum and allows the kick drum to pop through. So to listen to them on their own, this is the kick and the bass. And with the drums. Nice. So what was I going to do? That's right, the stutter synth. But now we've got the bass progression, we can actually use that stutter synth in the way that I intended. So let's try that again, because we've got that melody one we saved earlier. Strutter synth. Yeah, I love the name. We're going to call that a strutter synth today, because it's strutting brilliant. Right, let's get a wavetable on there. Oh, I hope you're enjoying this. So let's get a nice sound in there. I'm going to go and look for a lead, I think. Lead synth. And I'm just going to have a listen. Great, it sounds identical. You brought me nothing but... Ooh, no, you know what? I'm going to just create something from scratch. That's what you all want to see. So, I'll get a bright sound, like so. I want to add some modulation to that. Let's get the shape right. I want this to be bright because this is going to be something that really brings out the high energy in this track. So I'm actually going to make another layer as well. But first, let's get this nice and wide with some unison. And we're going to add a stutter effect to this. But I'm actually going to create that second layer after I've added movement to this one. So if we have an LFO, we can assign that to different parameters within this synth. So if I was to hit warp mode, go to the matrix, then it's going to allow warp mode to show up there, and I can assign it to an LFO. Oh, so now you've got that amazing Commodore 64 sound. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's going to do for me at the moment. So let's write in what we think that melody should be. And you can jam around on the keyboard if you've got one. Yes, and I just want that repeating motif. My favourite kind, actually, when a melody just stays the same. Pryda does that a lot. The melody will stay the same, but the bass progression changes. Every 16th. You rarely have to go on different grids other than the 16ths. That reminds me of that Mal P tune, the one that goes, which we can look at another day. Just let me know in the comments. Give me a hell yeah if you're enjoying this, or an amen brother if you're feeling holy. So we've got our synth doing that. And I'm going to duplicate it because I said I want to layer it. So I'm going to add a layer for the Stutter synth. Let's just play with some different... Ooh, glittery. Right, I'll have you, son. Let's group those together. Stutter. Colour it the natural colour of synths groups, which is cyan but slightly darker. Teal, if you will. And now I want to add a really stutter effect to that. Now, you could do that with Shaperbox or something similar. That's going to be the easiest. We basically want to turn the volume up and down really quickly. I'm going to show you a weird way to do it because I only want to use the plugins within Ableton. You could use the Trance Gate, which I've shown before, but I'm going to use the Auto Pan. But instead of using it to pan things left and right like this, I'm going to put the phase, and what that's going to do is duck the volume. So now I can hit saw mode. I can assign the rate to be in sync with our track on the 16th, and now we've got this effect. Nice. And then you can actually speed it up. Oh yes. And now let's give it some hall reverb on an auxiliary channel. Cool. Okay, that's sounding really nice. Next thing I want to do is look at the arrangement, but after we've got the vocals in there, because that's going to be really important. And now we've got this 808 synth that we can put in there as well. I don't know why it's in the bass. Let's take it out. So let's just copy that over, and it should all work. I think the mid bass might be too loud, so let's turn it all to mono with a mono switch so I can balance the levels more easily, and let's have a listen. So I'm going to mix this now. So I've turned it all to mono so it's easier for me to hear. We're killing the bass. And the kick's playing. We don't want that fighting with the kick. Let's bring up the mid bass. Adding a little bit of room reverb to that. This is all in mono at the moment. I want to make sure it sounds good in mono. I actually might not need that second layer. In fact, we could do that. We could have it fade in now and again using that auto pan method. So amount, shape, so it's, phase, and now we can have this fade in and out. Never done this before. More movement. Sounds awesome. So now we've got the two separate parts of the track, the A section and the B section. Loving it. Okay, so next thing I want to do is find the vocals, which is really going to bring this track out. So I'm just going to close that down. We'll get to that melody line in a little bit. We can actually ditch these chords because we don't need them anymore. It's just a template, really. And now let's find a vocal. So I'm just going to loop this round, open up Splice, and then search for female vocal, because I want something nice and, you know, breathy. I can choose A minor, or I could actually sync this to the key of the track using Splice Bridge, but I'm just going to search for something in A minor to make it quicker. And let's just have a listen to some of the vocals. That's nice. I'm beginning to regret some of this. No. No, calm down. We've heard that a million times. That's the trouble with using something like Splice. I knew I wanted you. Free your mind. Talk to me. I mean, I'm gonna have that. It wasn't what I was intending, but I feel inspired. It's kind of a bit dark, and I like that. So let's just drag that in, save it, and now we need to synchronize this to our track. So it's in A minor, perfect, 134 BPM. So we need to make sure it's warped to 134 BPM. It is, but we're going to choose Complex Pro because it's the best algorithm for vocals. And now we've got this cool vocal, which is going to work in the B section and the A section of the track. So if we were to bring this over, we've got this kind of effect. This is the A section. Free your mind. All right. I can free my mind, but you need to ask more quietly. Free your mind. Talk to me. Speak in waves, frequencies. Free your mind. Let's get a sidechain compressor on there. Just a bit. Speak in waves, frequencies. Free your mind. Talk to me. We could put like a beat repeater on there. Beat repeater. My ability to speak is greatly impacted by my lack of coffee. So let's put a beat repeater on there just to see what happens, you know, get some cool effects going on. Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies. Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies. Free your mind. So you could do that, which is pretty cool. But then we can go to the main break of the track. And this is where we're going to get into the really fun stuff with the arrangement. So don't forget, if you want to check out the accelerator, click the link below where we go into way more detail in this stuff and give you feedback twice a week, every week. And you can also download this project file when I've finished it. But I want to get to the main break. We're going to use the same progression, but we're going to use a nice smooth bass for that. So let's call it respace. And we want to hit these same notes. So I'm just going to drag that over actually. But we want each note to be one note, like so. Let's drag that down. And this is going to sound amazing, right? When we've got that programmed in on one note, let's create a really nice, rich bass that we're only going to use in the break sections of the track. So let's pull it in there. Saw wave. and we want to get some phase cancellation in here.
Free your mind, talk to me, speak in...
No, you'll end up annoying me. So we're going to go to unison. Now we're going to have phase cancellation issues in the low end, but because it's the break, it doesn't matter that much. It's on the drop where you need a really solid bass line. And now we'll put a filter on there. So we've got this lovely, rich, wide bass in the break.
Free your mind, talk to me.
And now check it out when we bring in the other sounds.
Frequencies, heartbeat, destiny, lost in sound.
Now let's get to this melody
We
synth.
are free. Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies.
I'm just jamming out.
Heartbeat, destiny, lost in sound. We
Let's
are
record
free.
that.
Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies.
I like that a lot. That's going to be our main melody. Let's just quantize it, which is where you bring everything onto the grid. So let's hit... Oh, they've changed it, haven't they? I haven't really used quantize that much, but not since using Ableton 12, but hey.
Free your mind, talk to me.
And I'm just going to tweak a couple of the notes.
Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves. Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies, heartbeat, destiny.
Slight variation the second time through. Don't forget to watch my melody video if you want to find out about writing melodies.
Heartbeat, destiny, lost in sound. We are... We are free.
Cool, so that is our main melody. I'm also going to layer this up as well. Melody 2, and let's just get another sound. And when we're layering up, we don't want to have two layers doing the same job. So I want something much lower down in this. I'm just going to bring a piano in there because I want some more body in that low end, and I'm going to drop the octave. And just have it quiet. It doesn't need to be loud as a layer, but listen to the difference it makes. And in fact, I might layer up one octave below as well. Whoops. That sounds nice, doesn't it? Let's make them legato, so they're longer notes.
Sound, we are free. Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies, heartbeat, destiny.
And now,
lost in sound, we are...
We'll go to the A section. This is going to be awesome, all right? So imagine that break, if you will. You don't have to imagine it. You literally just heard it. But now, let's get the build. And we're going to hold that, sustain that tension, just by repeating the riff. And we'll double this out because I want the impact to be massive. So let's just double that out. So we're sustaining that riff. So the chord progression has stopped. Now you're like, Will, what are you doing with the 808 bass? You crazy son of a gun. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to do my favorite thing to do with bass, which is make it not bass and automate it. So first we're going to take out the low end. So we're going to add this frequency filter, or EQ as normal people would call it. And we're going to slowly bring in the low frequencies, but we're also going to add punch at the beginning. And it's always important to kind of mark down the end point you want it to be before you kind of screw it up. And I'm going to take the low pass filter off. Otherwise, you're not going to hear anything because of the EQ. And it's going to do, whoops, it's going to do this.
We are free.
Okay, that's too high up, this frequency. So and let's push this one up as well. Automation is where all the fun happens, but you've got to get the solid idea in first. And the last thing, which I really love to do, is put a reverb on there, on the channel itself, because listen to what happens. And I'm going to push up the volume of this as well. And we're going to play with a dry wet on that bass. And let's just solo the bass and listen to what's happening here. This is a real magic trick, this. It's just playing with people's brains. And then, when the drop hits, all of these effects, if we group them together, can just be automated to turn off like this. So they're only on in that section, and then when we hit the drop, they turn off. And listen to the effect it has. And I'm going to fade out that bass as well.
Destiny.
Not the bass, this stutter effect.
We are free.
Like so.
Free your mind. Talk to me. Speak in waves, frequencies. Heartbeat. Destiny. Lost in sound. We are free.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to do, the 808 synth. Blatantly, this is ripped off from Punctual, but it's such a banging track. I don't care. This is an homage. I'm showing you some production techniques, all right?
Lost in sound. We are free. Free your mind, talk to me, speak in waves, frequencies, heartbeat, destiny, lost in sound, we are free.
There you go. Yes. Little effects and whatnots. And then later on, when you get to the real meat of the track, we go to that progression. Let's just do some arrangement as we go. So what I'm going to bring, I'll bring this stutter over there now. Okay, wait. Melody, come over. Ooh.
We are free. Free your mind. Talk to me. Speak in waves, frequencies. Heartbeat, destiny. Lost in sound. We are free.
Okay, whew. I'm going to do a bit more work on that, and what you can hear in the background is what's downloadable. So yeah, don't forget to download this project file if you want to pick it apart. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've been a bit crazy today, but I'm happy with that if you're happy with that. So thank you for watching. I popped another video there, which I think is really going to help you if you like this style of music. And if you want to check out our coaching program, which is how our students get signed to the world's biggest labels and have accrued well over 100 million streams, then you can check out the Accelerator program. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. And until then, cheers and happy producing. Oh, yeah.